Got to be aware of the inbounder here if you're Philly.
It's off to Leonard, defended by Simmons. Is this the dagger? Game! Series! Toronto has won! Fourth-quarter points by Kawhi Leonard. And the game winner, 41 points.
And there it is, everyone. Kawhi Leonard and his heroics lift the Toronto Raptors past the Philadelphia 76ers after his shot bounces around the rim 4 times, and he leads the way to the Eastern Conference Finals to take on the league-leading Milwaukee Bucks, a very dangerous team, 60-22 in the regular season. They had the NBA's best record, second in points per game, second in assists per game, first in rebounds per game, and I have the pleasure of speaking to Samuel Davis from the sports section. Samuel, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Mike. I cannot believe we are talking and the Raptors are going to the Eastern Conference Final.
Sam, what were you doing and where were you? What was the atmosphere like where you were? Explain that to the listeners for me.
Well, so for the past couple weeks, I've been running with the Homestand Sports team, the Hoop Talks Live rally watch parties at the Rec Room. And the Rec Room has just actually opened a second location at Square One. So I've been doing the ones in Mississauga, where the real Raptors fans are.
Yeah.
In the 905, right? So when that shot went in, and we've got like the videos to prove it, and I think everyone's reaction when they saw the first bounce, Mike, was, not happy. Very upset. It's 2001 all over again. Vince Carter missing the shot, but then when you see the second bounce, and then the third bounce, and then the fourth bounce, and then it finally falls in, this place, Mike, erupted. Like the entire place, people were hugging and kissing, and everyone was just so happy. Honestly, it was probably the most amazing Toronto sports moment I've ever witnessed. It was amazing.
Who would you rather have? Now, you have a draft pick, all right? You have the top 2 picks, Giannis or Kawhi Leonard. Who would you want and why?
Who would I draft, you say?
Yes.
See, it's good. It's tough for me, right? Because obviously I am a Raptors fan, and I love all my Toronto Raptors dearly. But Giannis Antetokounmpo is a once-in-a-lifetime talent. You look at this guy, you just look at the way he's built, right? And the way he's progressed from when he was drafted to kind of what he's become now. Giannis is getting comparisons to Shaquille O'Neal, to these once-in-a-lifetime NBA players, where obviously Kawhi Leonard has his resume of NBA Finals MVP, NBA Finals clutch performer. He's been to the playoffs. He's been to the dance. But with the youth of Giannis and just like he is a freak. He is the Greek freak.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I'm
gonna have to go with Giannis here, Mike. It's hard to say because I know they're the rival, but my gosh, he's a once in a lifetime talent. You can't pass that up.
Who would you rather have in the last 10 seconds of the ball game?
See, this is the interesting question. This is a lot different than who I want to draft, because I think in the last 10 seconds of the game, Kawhi Leonard is one of the best isolation players in the NBA. And the fact that he can create his own shot, you watched it on that last shot in Game 7, you can watch it on numerous amounts of plays in both the Philadelphia and Orlando series, that Kawhi is this player who you trust with the ball with 10 seconds left. Whereas, yes, Giannis is this powerhouse beast, and, he's tough to defend and all that kind of stuff. But, Kawhi's been there, and Kawhi knows what it takes in those last 10 seconds. I'm going to have to go Kawhi.
Now, tell me this. We saw there has been struggles with the bench with the Toronto Raptors against the Philadelphia 76ers. three players specifically coming off the bench. There's only three really who are playing right now. There's Serge Ibaka, Norman Powell, who we didn't see much of late on in the series against the Philadelphia 76ers, and Fred VanVleet. What are you expecting them to do against the Milwaukee Bucks, and why do you believe they struggled so much against the Philadelphia 76ers?
It's been super frustrating to watch the bench for the last two series. As you can see, and a lot of the sports talk shows are talking about this, the fact that like Kawhi Leonard is grabbing this team and dragging them to the Eastern Conference Final. Like the fact that for the majority of the series is Fred VanVleet has just been a non-factor, right? And the fact that he was, the heartbeat of this bench for the last couple years, and we were talking about the Raptors of a year ago and 2 years ago. Now, obviously, this is a completely different team. The depth was always something that the Raptors pride themselves on, right? It was the bench mob. It was the fact that this team is so deep. They can beat LeBron, but then obviously we saw LeBron destroy us anyway. But I think that you kind of hit it on the top. What am I saying? I think you kind of hit it on the nail here, right here. I think the bench is going to be the key for the Raptors. And obviously, if you've seen with the Bucks, their bench has been incredible these past two series.
Oh, yeah.
With Connaughton and Mirotic and
Brogdon
all of
is
these
back
kind
now.
of exactly. All these role players have come together. The Raptors need to show up. They need to be able to kind of counter that bench attack. And the fact that we haven't seen it in the last two series is kind of worrisome.
So tell me this. So you're an assistant coach on the Toronto Raptors. You're Jeremy Castleberry or
right.
Patrick Mutombo or Jamal McGlure. And you're sitting on your flight and you're headed to Milwaukee. And you look over to the head coach, Nick Nurse, and you say, Nick, what is the game plan here to win this series? You're Nick Nurse. What do you say to them?
I'm Nick Nurse in this scenario.
Yes.
So I think right now is that the Raptors can't play to the pace. They have to set their own pace, because we all know the Bucks run up and down the court and play this incredible pace that Mike Budenholzer has instilled with this Milwaukee Bucks team. It's incredible. The fact that this team they haven't really made too many changes other than the addition of Brook Lopez. This is pretty much the same team they had last year. The biggest addition they've had is Mike Budenholzer, who has absolutely transformed this team into the juggernaut they are this year. I think if you're Nick Nurse, who's, again, this is his first time here, this must be, obviously he's a very experienced coach. He's been coaching in the NBA as an assistant level for years. I think what you need to do is just make sure that they play at their own pace and make sure that players like Kawhi, players like Danny Green, even players like Patrick McCaw, players that have, even Serge Ibaka as well, players who have been to the dance, end up taking a leadership role and say, okay, when they're down, they lose a 10-0 run or something to the Bucks, that they can kind of compose the team and say, this is the way we play basketball, right? Stick to the game plan, all that kind of stuff. Because if you start playing Milwaukee's game, they're going to be screwed. It's plain and simple. They can't keep up. Giannis is too quick. They don't have that sort of athleticism that the Bucks do. So I think to stick to the game plan and be able to, have big defensive stops, play good in transition, I think is going to be super key. And that's kind of what Nick Nurse needs to do. You're not going to shut down Giannis. That's not what's going to happen. I think so. You need to stick to what you know, and I think that's the best way you're going to have success in this series.
Now, when we watch the playoffs, unlike the regular season, Kyle Lowry is on a bit of a roller coaster just in regards to strictly him putting the ball in the basket, his scoring. In Game 7, he actually played very well from what I watched. He had 10, 6, and 6, and the guy just plays hard. He's a pit bull. What do you think about Kyle Lowry struggling offensively, even though he does everything else, and he really is a pit bull? But seeing how well he played in Game 7, even though he only had 10 points, he did everything else. Do you believe that the city of Toronto and beyond kind of takes Kyle Lowry a little bit for granted?
So this is my issue, I think, with a lot of Toronto sports fans, and my issue with how we portray Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry makes $31 million, Mike. $31 million to be a guy who does all the little things and, will come up with a couple steals and he's a grind player. He's not Marcus Smart, right? Like $31 million is one of the top contracts in the NBA. You need to be providing a lot more on offense with that sort of contract. So to sit here and say, okay, it's great, he does all the little intangible things, he's a junkyard dog out there, he brings a lot of emphasis to the team, is I just think a nice way of trying to say that he's not performing. He's for what we are paying, for what the Raptors are paying Kyle Lowry, he is not performing to the level that the Raptors need him to be at. And I think a lot of Toronto sports fans, we get behind that and, we're loyal to him. He's been here for so many years. He stayed. He didn't leave when he could have signed a contract with one of the bigger American market. But with getting paid $31 million and you're putting up, 10 points a night? Come on. Honestly, come on. Like that's not acceptable for a team that's trying to go to the finals.
Now, last question for you here.
Yeah, go for it.
Who are you picking and in how many games?
See, this is tough, but my heart says Raptors in 7. But if I'm going off the resumes of what both of these teams have done in the last 2 series, and if honestly, again, as I said, if the bench does not show up for the Toronto Raptors, this series will be done in 6, and the Milwaukee Bucks will win. This is all depending on the bench, and if that's basically what I'm going off of, the Bucks in 6.
Who would be your unsung hero for each team?
My unsung hero. That's an interesting question, and I think for the Bucks right now, it's been super weird to see, and I know he's had some success in the Raptors before, but the way George Hill is playing for the Milwaukee Bucks has been incredible.
Wow.
Like,
never thought about that. I never thought about that, actually. But that's a really good, interesting pick. He gives Kyle Lowry a lot of problems, actually.
He has. Like, think about those Indiana Pacers series. Think about even the Cavs series. He's always just kind of been a thorn in the Raptors' sides for multiple playoff series. And I think, with the experience that George Hill has and the way he's been playing against, again, the Pistons and the Celtics, who they just absolutely steamrolled, who's to say he doesn't bring that sort of momentum into the series? And I think for the Raptors side, again, it's going off the bench. We need bench performers. So, again, if the Raptors have any success, my unsung hero is going to be Fred Bentley. He has to have a massive series. And if Fred doesn't show up, and if Fred does show up, I think that's going to be a huge boost for the Raptors, and I think that's what will inevitably get them to the NBA Finals.
Samuel Davis from the sports section. Samuel, where can everybody find you online? Can we find you on Twitter? Can we find you on Instagram? Where can we find your podcast?
Oh, you can find me everywhere, Mike. You know that. I've got on Twitter, I am at Sammy Davis Jr. _ Yes, that's my real name. And I know everyone's like, oh my gosh, Sammy Davis Jr. Yes, it's my actual name. And you can find the Sports Section podcast on all available podcasts websites. So that's Google, iTunes, Spotify, all of the above. That's where we can find it. And we also are on Twitter. So that's the Sports Section _ is the Twitter handle for that. So that's where. And I'm also on Instagram at Sammy Davis Jr. with the _ again.
Sammy, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it, man. I'm going to speak to you again soon.
Mike, thank you so much, man. And I really hope the Raptors keep moving forward. It'd be great for the city.
Appreciate it. Talk to you soon, man.
All right. Talk to you soon, Mike.
And there it is, everyone. I really don't know where to go in this series in regards to who's going to win this thing. I feel like Milwaukee has the better team. They have more depth from what we've seen thus far in the playoffs. But for some reason, I just feel like Toronto can find a way to pull this thing off. I don't know how they're going to do it. Like you heard from Samuel Davis, you're going to need production from your bench. It is key. I don't know how the Raptors will pull this thing off, but I just feel like there's a way where they can do it. You know, I really, really do. And Kawhi Leonard is going to come out and perform. We need to see more offensively, obviously, from Marc Gasol and Kyle Lowry. Pascal Siakam will know he'll do his thing. But Serge Ibaka, Norman Powell, OG Anunoby is said to be getting better, so we'll see in a week. We got to get this series to go 6 or 7 games. But there it is. This series will start Wednesday night. Game 2 will be played on Friday. Game 3 on Sunday. Game 4 on Tuesday. And I'm looking forward to a great series here. I say 90% of the people that you have here discuss this series on television has all taken Milwaukee. Pretty much Toronto is a heavy underdog going into this series. So it'll be fun. Looking forward to it. Hope you guys are too. Don't forget, check me out, OXP Media on Instagram, o.xp.media on Instagram. Instagram handle personally at MikeRoach7. Looking forward to hear your comments. Looking forward to you guys tuning into IGTV to check this out. So let's get tuned up and get ready for the Raptors-Bucks Eastern Conference Finals, and I'll see you guys again soon.